You're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your new favorite podcast for everything Bills and Sabres. Oh, what's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your favorite podcast for all things Bills and Sabres with the pals, Nigel and Jake today. Episode 49 coming at you. We are here on beautiful Canisius Lake doing a live 4th of July holiday podcast to touch base on some Sabres and Bills. No, Sabres things today because of free agency and the draft. Jake, buddy, how we doing?
I'm great. Happy 3rd. It's good to be here. It was a beautiful day yesterday. It's always fun being on Canisius and seeing the Ring of Fire. I don't know if you can see the nice weather behind us, but it's beautiful. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Yeah, every third we have a big group of people down and hit the boat and go to the north end and all that fun stuff and just do a bunch of drinking and hanging out. So it's always a good time. We feel okay today, though. I think we did okay in terms of prepping ourselves to not be too far gone for this episode. So we're just going to do a quick one to recap what the Sabres have been up to with free agency as well as the draft. What do you want to do first, Jay? You want to talk about free agency or draft first?
Let's go draft. Let's go in order. Yeah.
Go draft. Sweet. Well,
they did, in fact, draft.
Everything that we wanted them to do, they did not do, which was very frustrating. But we were talking about it earlier. It's kind of a bummer to overall, like if you read the reports and stuff like that from people, the Sabres have really overall had like a really nice draft, like a lot of really good prospects and all that stuff. But the problem is we're not going to see those players for 2 to 3 years, if ever, for most of them. So it's super, super tough to feel optimistic about that because Kevin Adams keeps saying how we're win now. Well, Constantinius looks like a great player, but he's not going to be in Buffalo this year.
No, and I've heard people say that he might be a bit further along than 2 or 3 years, more along than 3 or 4 years. Like he could be in Buffalo in 2 years. But again, if you're not making the playoffs this year, it doesn't matter. So, it's fine. I like that they traded back in the first round. They, maybe didn't see a player at number 11 that they wanted and thought they could get a player that they did want at 14. So they got a second round pick as an additional asset. I didn't love that they used that to trade for a fourth liner, essentially. I was hoping that would be a trade chip and a bigger package, but all in all, I'm not upset that they traded back. And yeah, when I was watching the draft, just the feeling, I was hoping they would trade that pick and pick up somebody else from that asset, but they didn't. They made the pick. And I think we should talk about the kid. His name's Consta Helenius, and he's out of Liga. I know you have some stats that you wanted to pull up for him, but I've seen people talk and compare him to Anton Lundell in Florida. So if that's a ceiling, that's a great ceiling to have. We'll see. I think it's a safe pick, like a good floor pick. I don't think he'll be a superstar maybe, but he's a true center, and that's something that the pipeline is lacking a bit. So, 3 years and he's center in Buffalo. I think that would be best case scenario. But yeah, you want to talk about Consta a little bit?
So yeah, Consta Helenius, 5'11", 180. He's a baby, dude. He's 18 years old. So he's still going to grow and get bigger and all that stuff. Hopefully 5'11". I would like to see that guy be more like 195-ish, maybe even flirting with 200. But yeah, true center. He's been in Liga for the last 2 years. Not crazy numbers, but when you're 18 years old playing in that adult European league, it's really, really cool because you get to see these young guys playing against adult men. So first season in Liga, which was last year, 32 games, 11 points, nothing crazy. This past season, though, 51 games, 36 points, 14 goals, 22 assists. So he's a real solid player playing against men at the age of 18. I'm wondering, do you think there's any shot could he play in Rochester as early as this year? Or do you think he's going to be in Liga for another year?
I don't know. I think they said the plan was to bring him over to North America as quickly as possible. I think it depends on what he's hoping for, but and that's the benefit of drafting a guy out of Liga. He's eligible to play in Rochester this year rather than the Matt Savoie that we've talked about, where he has to go back to junior and play against children. So I think that's a big benefit. And you're right. He had some great stats in Liga. He's up there with, I know Barkov was a guy that came from Liga that Barkov is Barkov. He didn't put up Barkov numbers, but, he's in good competition, good company with some of the stats that he put up in that men's league as a 18 year old.
And real quick, I'll add on this. So I do have one fun little tidbit here. He led all under 18 Liga skaters in points during the 22-23 and 23-24 seasons. His 47 career points rank second amongst all Liga players before turning the age of 18, trailing only Alexander Barkov. So that's a name that you like. You like your guy being in company with. Obviously, we've talked about being huge fans of Alexander Barkov. So yeah, Constantinius, we'll see. Probably going to be in Rochester this year. Hopefully, I would like to see him there. But yeah, again, though, a guy that's 2 years from doing it, right? So like, I don't know.
One more thing on the draft. I think if Kevin was able to pull off a trade for a top 6 winger at the draft, everything in this offseason would be put in a different light. But that's a big chip that didn't fall. I thought the Sabres drafted well from what I've seen on online, and you know, pros talking about the draft, that the Sabres drafted pretty well. They picked up some good depth. They picked up a lot of defensemen, which I'm happy about, because those guys take a little bit longer to develop into mature NHL players. So stock the pipeline. Good trade chips too. Some big bodies they got. Took a lottery ticket on a goalie. Like, I mean, not a bad draft, I thought. So it's a shame that there wasn't a bigger deal to kind of cap everything and put it in a different perspective.
Yeah, it's like I said, dude. Like we want to win now, and nothing that happened at the draft is going to help us win now. So, except for maybe we did talk about in that trading a second round pick or just trades in general. We did the night of the draft acquire Beck Malenstein, who last year with Washington, it was his first full season in Washington. He is your prototypical guy, kind of guy we've been talking about, grinder. He's going to block shots, kill penalties, all that fun stuff. As a fourth liner last year with Washington, he averaged 14 minutes of ice a game, which to me is really telling. That guy's out there in a lot of situations. Is he a guy that's going to put the puck in the net or contribute a lot of points? Absolutely not. But you still need that guy, right? A defensive shutdown player who is, he led the team in hits last year. I don't remember exactly what number it was, but it was well over 100. Like just a bit of a wrecking ball out there. Thoughts on Beck Malenstein at all?
I think he's so Zemgus Girgensons did not resign. He moved on to Tampa. I think it's a logical fit for him to kind of slot into that role that Z had. I think where I'm skeptical is they paid a pretty high price for him, a second round pick, netted guys like Mangiapane. There was a few others that went for second round picks that I'm just not thinking of in my somewhat booze-addled state. But so my skepticism is that they might try to put him higher in the lineup. If he's a fourth line guy that can grind out some PK time and play well in the minutes that he gives you, great. Is that worth a second round pick? Probably not, but I'd be happy with that. If they got him with the hopes that, oh, this guy's got the tools, he can play on our second line, then miss me with that. I'm out on that all day.
100%. Yeah, this guy should never be leaving the fourth line, right? That's like, it just flat out shouldn't happen. So you're right. If they're going to try and pull some shit where this guy's going to go into the top 6, I'm going to have an absolute coronary. But yeah, straight up. So can't happen. So that was kind of the only trade that's really been made, which it's tough because right now Buffalo is not a place where people want to come and play hockey. The team is dog shit. It's cold 10 months of the year. Like, I get it. But the other problem is, like, so that's the problem with free agents, right? You can't, if it's a UFA, you can't make somebody come here. That being said, trades are also an issue, I think. And it's tough to say why exactly. We don't know if Kevin Adams is being too stingy, or is it that Buffalo is on every single no movement clause that's out there, and we just can't do anything about it? Because at the end of the day, even if there is a trade in place, if we're on Buffalo's no movement clause Buffalo's on the no movement clause, and they don't want to waive that, there's nothing anybody can do. A couple of reports that I read that there was a trade in place for Jeff Skinner to go to Seattle. He didn't move or waive his movement clause. So like, I feel like we're getting murdered by these, dude. Like, we can't get the guys that we need because we're bad, and we can't get better because we can't get the guys that we need.
Yeah, it could be. We don't know, unfortunately. I hope, like, I hope that is the case, that we're on no trade lists, and that Kevin Adams is like dogging guys to get players. I think that would make me feel a little bit better, not a lot better, but a little bit better. Um, yeah, I mean, the no trade clauses, it's the players, right? It's not against any of them, Skinner or other guys coming here, to not waive them. I mean, Trouba's been in the news lately for getting some heat from not waiving that, but it's their right. But it's become really prevalent. I think I saw a number that was like 275 or so no trade clauses in the NHL. That's like a third of the player base almost. So it's they're here to stay, and it's an unfortunate reality that I think Buffalo is on a lot of those lists. I think it goes back to how they treated Eichel and the injury surgery that he needed. I can't say if I was a pro athlete that would make me feel too rosy about signing somewhere. So I don't blame players. But you're right. It's tough to get better. It's tough to make that impactful trade that you need to build a team when you have guys that aren't willing to come here and play.
It's the thought that the way that Ike's surgery was handled is affecting players coming here is a super tough pill to swallow, because like that's all that is, well, would you say that was Pagula or was that Kevin Adams?
I thought it probably, I mean, both, but I still think Kevin Adams is a little bit of a mouthpiece for ownership, and it's not always a bad thing, but I don't know if ownership is the best in the NHL.
Yeah. It's tough to know where to put that blame, because, and I guess either way, it doesn't really matter. Both of those guys are still here, the two guys that made that call. So, whether it was one or the other or both, they're both still here. So that players aren't going to feel like that's going to change. Man, if that's a reason they're not coming here, that's so tough, dude. And the other thing too, like, is it Kevin Adams just being a rookie GM, right? Like, does he know the right levers to pull at the right time? Like, there could be some of that too. Like, I can't imagine that Lou Lamoriello isn't looking at Kevin Adams being like, I bet I could fleece this guy, right? So I don't know. It's just so tough, dude. But that was the one trade. We're hoping. I mean, you're at this point, the only way you're getting your impactful top six player is through a trade. Is that going to happen? I don't know. What does that look like? Absolutely no idea. So,
and again, similar to what we said with the draft, if they had gone out and acquired a top six player, free agency would be viewed in an entirely different light. And I do like some of the signings. We can go through some of the other guys in a minute here, but they added a lot of good depth and a lot of good, fourth line, third line guys. So to me, like, I like what they did. You don't build your team through free agency. You don't add impactful pieces that often in free agency, and when you do, you're usually overpaying. So getting them through trade is the way to do it. I just wish they had. So hopefully you're right. It's the trade market and not Kevin Adams sitting on his hands and getting worked over by every other GM.
Well, we will never know, because you and I are here on the porch at Canisius Lake, and Kevin Adams is hopefully on the phone trading for Martin Necas as we speak. That being said, there are some players to talk about here. Real quick, we touched on it real quickly with Zemgus Girgensons, but we should just real quick. Gabe, what's good, buddy? I like this comment. If we were in Hogwarts, you'd be in Bufflepuff house. Bufflepuff, that's awesome. Gabe, hope you're well, buddy. Some players no longer with the Sabres, right? Zemgus Girgensons, you touched on it, gone, playing for Tampa. Victor Olofsson signed a deal with Vegas, right? So he's gone. And Jeff Skinner is now an Edmonton Oiler. So congratulations to 2025 Stanley Cup winner Jeff Skinner, because that's the way things seem to operate right now. We know that the Oilers were just in the finals. They just added a 30-goal scorer for $3 million. While he's additionally making money from the Sabres, we can, whatever. But yeah, kind of a tough one there to just watch him. He's going to be crazy in Edmonton. Like, I think he's going to be sick.
Let's hit on that, because again, so it's beneficial. We've talked about it a lot, but they bought him out. They've not replaced him really at all. And so if we open on October 5th, 6th, whatever it is, without another top six winger, you've made your roster worse by buying him out. And it seems more and more likely that maybe they just didn't want to pay him his salary. And that's a horrid reason to make your lineup worse at going into this year. But it's just with some of the moves that Terry Pagula has perpetrated in his time, it seemed I can't shake that nagging doubt that he got a little cheap with the contract, and they're not going to spend to the cap, which is just a slap in the face to fans if they do truly think that. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with you. I think Skinner's gonna. I'm happy for him. Like, I hope he plays really well in Edmonton. And boy, that forward lineup in Edmonton is nasty. It's disgusting.
Could you imagine, like, dude, if they put Jeff Skinner with Connor McDavid, he's gonna score 50. Like, because Jeff Skinner, he still puts the puck in the net, dude. Again, defensive liability. We've talked about it, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, he is like you. If they put him with Connor McDavid, he's going to score between 40 and 50. I'd be willing to guarantee it. So, yeah, Hyman was just a human backboard for Connor McDavid. So,
kind of similar players. So, like, I don't know if they will put them on the same line. There's only so much room in front of the net, but agreed. Yeah, Jeff Skinner firing pucks in that Connor McDavid's getting him it's a recipe for a lot of goals.
Or Draisaitl, right? It doesn't matter either way. So, hats off to those guys. Thanks for your time in Buffalo. Jeff Skinner in particular scoring a lot of goals. Vic and Zemgus. Zemgus, thank you too. Long time Sabre. How long? Over 10, 12?
I think he was drafted in 2012. Yeah. So 12 years.
That's forever, dude. So yeah. But no, like, aside from losing Jeff's goal scoring ability, nobody I'm super crushed to lose. Like, I was fine losing Vic, fine losing Zemgus. So let's talk about the guys that we did sign. So, and before we get into that, I do want to just say this real quick. I do like these moves, and I think these are good moves. They are just overshadowed by what's still missing. And it's just like you said, if we had that top 6 player that we had gotten via trade or whatever, these signings would have me thrilled, because what we do have right now is an almost completely revamped bottom 6. And the bottom 6 that I see right now is a tough, fast, physical, tough to play against bottom 6. The question is going to become, are you going to be able to count on getting any points from your bottom 6 with these players? So let's talk about some of these guys. I think probably the biggest name, and I say biggest name because of all these guys, he's the one with the most top 6 potential, Jason Zucker, right? 32 years old. He's not too far removed from a 27-goal season. Do you have any thoughts on Jason Zucker at all, Jake? He's veteran. He's put up some good numbers in the league, but doesn't feel for me like the guy that we needed necessarily.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. He's a good role player, and he can slot into like that middle 6 role. He's been around the league. He is a veteran. I think he's won a cup with Pittsburgh, perhaps. So I'm not upset about him. Like you said, it's in the context of everything else. Are they picturing him playing on the second line as a fixture there? I don't like the move that much. If he's playing on the third line and pushes Greenway down to a 4th line role and you fill in some of those spots above him, then I love it. It's great. You overpaid him a bit, but you have to. We talked about the reason guys might not want to come to Buffalo unless there's a little bit of a dollar tag associated with it. So I like it. I'm waiting to see the context, but I agree with you. If he's part of a revamped bottom 6, then I think that's a really positive sign. He's been around. The team put out a highlight video of like, hey, look, we got this guy. And somebody said, I think he's wearing a Reebok jersey in some of these highlights, like back in 2016 or something when they made the switch. It's like, that's not great. Anyways, no, I'm happy about it. I think he can be a good addition, but we'll see where he slots in.
Yeah, just looking at some of his numbers here. So he spent last 2 seasons, he had a year in Arizona, 51 games, 25 points. I'm not going to hold that against him. That's a dog shit Arizona team. Most recently I think he was injured this past season, only played 18 games, 7 points, 18 games. You don't love that. But his last full season on a good squad, he had 48 points, 27 goals, 21 assists his last season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So if we can uncover some of that, Jason Zucker, that feels good. Here's the concern that I have. You're paying him $5 million, which is an overpay, like you said. Because you're paying this guy $5 million, is somebody sitting in the office just thinking, Jeff Skinner replacement?
Oh God, I hope not. I mean, I think Jeff Skinner's lost a step, but I don't think he's lost that much of a step. They better not be. They better not be. Oh,
I am pretty. That's what I feel like is going to happen. I think you are going to almost guaranteed see Jason Zucker on the second line. Is my guess, or maybe even that top pair. Just thinking putting a veteran there with Tage Thompson and Alex Stock, and that way you keep the kid line together, right? Paterka, Quinn, Cousins. Your third and fourth line, we maybe can talk about what those could look like. But I agree with you. His spot is third line. Should be, no questions asked. I could see him with this team and what this organization is shown to do bumped up higher than he should be. So makes me a little bit nervous there. But again, if you come back to that Jason Zucker that has 27 goals, might be okay. So a couple other guys here. Re-signed Jacob Bryson to a much lower deal than what he was supposed to have. So that's good. He should be your seventh defenseman. Shouldn't be dressing every night, I would hope. So no big deal there. Great, good move by Kevin Adams to lower that cap hit, right? Sam Lafferty. So Sam Lafferty, we signed as well. Again, just another, and this is going to be the kind of the same spiel with Abe Kubel too. We can almost kind of lump these two together. So Abe Kubel and Sam Lafferty. I don't even know, or Nicholas Abe Kubel. I couldn't remember his first name. Both just role type guys. These are guys that are fucking hockey players, right? Like stereotypical hitting, blocking shots, just pricks to play against, dude. These are guys that this team needed, right? These aren't guys that win you a Stanley Cup, but they are a piece of that puzzle, right? And I really do believe that. I think I like Sam Lafferty a lot. I remember playing Sam Lafferty in some of these games and just being like, holy shit, like this guy's a wrecking ball, you know? So do you want to say anything about those other guys real quick?
yeah, I agree with you. They're good depth pieces that they picked up. I'm really happy about not overspending massively in free agency, but picking up good and hard to play against guys. The big thing that they improved on in the bottom of the lineup is the speed. Gergensons, Opozo, good players, but they're not speedy, really. That's not what their game's based around. They changed that. Abe, Kubel, and Lafferty, Mallenstein too. They're all quick. So they've talked about wanting to play a more direct north-south style of hockey. So I think those guys help them do that. Like you said, I mean, I don't want any of them to really rise up in the lineup a lot. They are kind of fourth line guys, and that's okay. We'll see where they slot in. But I think the thing that concerns me right now is I see the depth chart you pulled up. Krebs slots up to the third line, and I'm okay with that. But it can't be the Krebs from last year. He needs to take a step. So to me, you failed to get a top six forward, and you failed to plug the middle stat role that you gave away. I think those still are two holes that at this point can only be fixed in a trade. The free agents are pretty much off the board that are going to net you an impact player there. So there's still holes.
Yeah, there absolutely is, man. And it's really tough because there were guys that we were gunning for that, especially that third line center. Guys like Chandler Stevenson, I was wishing we would throw the bag at.
I did not want that. And I think Seattle massively regrets that contract.
They very well may. That was a big number for him. But as in terms of the player, like not at that contract, but I liked that player. That was a guy that would have loved to have in that third line center spot. We talked about Shane Pinto, who we thought may be a possible trade candidate. They solved that stalemate in Ottawa. So he resigns there. Yeah, I mean, you like to think that Peyton Krebs has the potential to step up into that role and do a good job, but we just haven't seen it yet, right? So it's hard to, you can't count on what you haven't seen. It's fun to hope, and you can, I don't know, we hoped last year and we were all heartbroken. So I feel like, why are we gearing up to do that again? As an organization, as a fan base, like what are we thinking? So that's a tough one for me. But yeah, like I do like the look of this bottom six. So I do want to read off this depth chart real quick. This is courtesy of Matt Beauvais on X. This is 2 days ago. We haven't signed anybody new since then, aside from James Reimer, which real quick, let's talk about that. Really good goalie depth, or just at least good goalie depth. It is good to have goalie depth, right? We're now in a situation where if for whatever reason UPL takes a significant step back, or Levi super struggles as the 1B, you have depth. There's some off-ice stuff with James Reimer that we don't love as human beings, but hopefully, We never have to see him in Buffalo. I don't know. It's always weird because it's a business and you want to win, but you want guys with good character and stuff too. So we don't have to get into that, but it's good to have goalie depth, right? Anything you want to say, Reimer?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Good to have the depth.
Yeah, he should be mostly in Rochester, I would hope. So, all right, courtesy of Matt Beauvais, this current depth chart for the Sabres. And this is obviously just hypothetical, but first line, Paterka, Thompson, Tuck, like that line, right? Second line, Benson, Cousins, Quinn. That one only makes me a little bit nervous because you're putting a lot of pressure on Zach Benson, who's going to be 19, I think, next year, and is still 5'9", and still probably like 170 pounds. That feels like a really tough assignment for him, but for sake of argument, we'll just keep on going. Third line, Zucker, Krebs, Greenway. I don't hate that line. It's okay. It's tough because for me, I don't know what I'm going to get with Greenway anymore, right? Sometimes he looks like the best power forward I've ever seen, and other times he looks like such a bitch I want to scream. So I don't know. I just can't figure out what Greenway's about. And then that fourth line completely revamped. Malenstein, Lafferty, Albe Kubel. You got Sam Lafferty centering that line. He had 25 points last season. Like, okay, if I said, Jake, your fourth line center is going to get you 12 goals and 16 assists, are you signing up for that? Yeah. I am too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, you're good. Greenway in particular he's kind of similar. He's not going to put up a lot of points, but he is a really good defensive forward.
So, yeah, I'm just worried about our ability because this right now feels to me like you are putting all the pressure on Thompson, Tuck, Paterka, Quinn, and Cousins to be your point getters, right? And Cousins took a huge step back last year. We're hoping it's a one-off, right? Quinn, can he stay healthy, right? Are we going to get 75-point Tuck back? Are we going to get 90-point Thompson back? Like we're just banking on a lot to go right. And is it going to be enough where Lindy can work with it? Like Lindy's not a miracle worker. Like he can't just snap his fingers and make shit happen. So this fourth line screams Lindy Ruff to me. I think he had a massive hand in these guys, Malenstein, Lafferty, Albe Kubel. But this bottom six, dude, I don't know what we can account for points. I don't know what we can account for points in our top six.
Yeah, it's tough. Like Quinn has had injury history. If he goes down for any significant amount of time, these lines look kind of rough. You're back to being kind of a one line team almost. And that scares the shit out of me because we had good forward depth. We have good forward depth, but it's so young. I still think that they've made themselves worse than last year, and it doesn't feel good to say, but I have concerns. Yeah, that they can't be done. They cannot be done. If they are, it's I guess we could talk about like temperature where we're at. If they're done and these are the forward lines, I'm skeptical about their chances. The Atlantic's gotten so much tougher. They're I think being forgiving, they're the fifth best team in the Atlantic right now. How do you feel?
I would say fifth is even generous. I mean, they might potentially be the worst team in the Atlantic next to Ottawa right now. Like everybody has got Montreal. Okay, Montreal, that's right. Yeah, Montreal, they're pretty bad. But still, man, like, we're just watching everybody else make moves. And it feels like we're sitting here with our hands in our pants, dude. Like, and then we never got a top 4 D man either, which now comparatively feels so far down the priority list that I don't even care, right? And technically right now, Jokiharju he's been offered a qualifying offer, but he's not technically signed yet. So we might even be looking at a situation where we don't have a legit top 4 man, which we don't even think Yoki is necessarily.
Yeah, they might be just running back the same D. They picked up a lot of good depth defense-wise, which is good. You need to have that for when guys go down. But you're right. At this point, I don't care if they pick up another top 4 D man. I don't love running back the same defense core that struggled at times last year. But if we have to, so be it. I'd rather they improve the forward core at this point. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, who knows about Jokiharju down there? Who knows about the top 4 D man? I had a thought, but now it's gone.
It happens. It happens to the best of us, bro. I'll say this real quick. If Jack Quinn stays healthy, that they could be your Jeff Skinner replacement right there.
Yeah.
I think truly, dude, because man, when Quinn is in, he fucking scores goals, dude. So if he can stay healthy and play at least like let's even just say 75 games, right? I would be willing to bet good money that's going to put him right at 30 goals. And so, if maybe that's what they're thinking, because he's shown that ability to do that on the ice. It's a question of is he going to be on the ice? His injuries have been, from what I've seen, kind of freak shit luck. I don't think they're things that should be continually nagging. So, and he's still young.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's all done and fine.
Eichel early in his career didn't he have 2 high ankle sprains, and everybody was like, "Oh, this guy gets injured all the time. How's his health?" But he's fine. Like freak things, they just happen. I thought of my question. I'm not saying this is right or good or anything to be hopeful about, but looking at this depth chart that you just read off, do you think that the organization sees a kid coming up and occupying a spot that we haven't thought of yet?
Well, if they do, let's talk about who that is, right? It's got to be either, my guess would be Matt Savoy or Yuri Kulik, right? One of those two. Matt Savoy still has yet to play a season against men and looked lost those 7 games or whatever it was he played in Buffalo. So sure as fuck shouldn't be him. Last year in the playoffs, Yuri Kulik did all but disappeared completely. Couple assists, and I went to every home playoff game. Barely saw the guy. So, I mean, unless one of these guys has an insane camp and just forces their hands, you have to hope that's not the hope from the organization, because it's not going to solve the issue, right? You brought in some more veterans with Zucker and Lafferty and stuff. Albeit Kubel's been in the league a long time, career 4th liner, but experience, So if that is the plan, it's a misfire by the organization, I think.
Agreed. I'm glad to hear you say that too, because it doesn't feel good. I really hope we have another conversation like this where we're talking about a different lineup projection down the line.
Yeah, and so it's I'll pull this up real quick because I think I can find it very quickly. I have a list of players that like decent players that don't have movement clauses, right? So just rattle off a couple of these names in no particular order. Guys like Trevor Zegras, Jordan Kyrou, Svechnikov, Dylan Strome. He already signed someplace, I think. Troy Terry, Robert Thomas, Seth Jarvis, Sam Bennett. I will tweet this out from the show account, but there are some names here that don't have movement clauses. So, it's a question of can you maybe try and find, and these aren't all necessarily RFAs or anything like that. There's just a list of guys that could be moved. Like Jason Robertson's on here. Dallas is not trading Jason Robertson. So if you go and look at this list, take it with a grain of salt, because not all these guys are RFAs or tradable right now. But that being said, dude, this is an insanely small list considering how many players there are. And there are more players without movement clauses, but these are just the ones that have like a pulse, like recognizable names in the league. Some good names on there, but again, like New York's not about to trade Lafreniere. New Jersey's not going to trade Jack Hughes, right? Those are guys that are on this list right now. So super tough, but it is what it is, and we just have to hope that Kevin Adams can find his way, dude. So anything else you want to add with any of this, Jake?
God, give me Carter Verhaeghe on our second line wing.
Dude, I know. I saw that one on there too. How nice would that be? Where's he right now? Florida. Yeah. So, yeah, dude, I don't know what his contract is like, but
1 year left, and he's a UFA, I think. So I don't know, dude. We'll see.
Yeah, dude, great. We'll get a UFA to come up from Florida to Buffalo next season. Can't wait. Jake, you want to take us out of here, buddy? You think you can handle it?
Yeah, sure. I don't have the script in front of me. I'll try to be my best Tom. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Happy July 4th, July 3rd, whatever you're celebrating. Happy Canada Day if you're in Canada earlier. But yeah, we're sending you lots of love. Thank you for listening. I forgot the rest of the line. Go Bills, go Sabres, let's go Buffalo.